Hello again and welcome. Today I'm going to be doing this capsule, and let me just get it open. There we are. I'll show you everything that's in this one. So we've got this lovely pink and white checkered table and a pink table leg. So I'm just going to pop the table leg in there and pop the table top on. There we are. Obviously you can see I've got the projects that I've completed and some that I haven't in the background. I will be tidying all of that up before we get into December because there's a lot coming and I'm not going to have the space for it all if I'm not careful. But I just wanted to explain that at the top of the video for you. So this is the Miniverse Make It Mini with Love series. We've got the Cupid's float, which I have and have made. We've got the conversation hearts, which I have and have not made. We've got the heart donuts and the chocolate heart fondue ultra rare, which I do not have. Again, as I always say, if any of you watching these videos see any that I don't have, that you happen to have a spare, please do reach out to me and I'll be interested in talking to you about purchasing those from you, because it would be nice to have full sets. So this lovely packaging that we have here is our utensils. It's very pretty. So I'm just going to open that. So we've got a lovely pink handled spatula. There we are, nice pale pink. Again, don't really like pink, but you know, it's nice to have a variety of different spatula colours. We've got a little heart that says mini on it, which is for our capsule topper. Like so. Very cute. We have got, just squeeze it from the bottom, our tongs, which are the same pastel light pink as the spatula, so they go together quite nicely. And that's it for that bag. We've then got in this little box 3 heart-shaped ring donut. Oh no, sorry, I do apologise. 2 heart-shaped ring donuts and 1 heart-shaped full donut. Very, very cute. Put them to one side. And then we've got in here this tissue paper, which is pink with different coloured hearts in different pinks and white on it. And then the tray itself, we've got, let me just try and get this insert out. Come here, you. Yeah. Just got a little sun-baked sweets in pink hearts tissue paper, which obviously you can use. I'm going to put the tissue paper in the box, I think, because I don't really like that in the tray. I think the tray is really beautiful and I want to keep it as it is. So it's a really nice fake wicker red tray in plastic, which is for these donuts. And then we've got these 2 bags. So this one is Have a Lovely Day. I already have this bag, so I'm not going to keep that one. I'm going to recycle that one. We have the Sunny Days Glaze and a nozzle for that. Put the Read Me First ones in there. That's my recycling. And then we have Sun-Baked Sweets Made Fresh. I think I have this bag. I'm going to open this one carefully just in case, but I'm pretty sure I have this bag already. So I'm going to do this down the back, I think. There we go. I've just ripped it anyway. We've got another nozzle, which is in the same pink as the tweezers and the spatula, and some food dye. Interesting. Not seen that in these before. And some red velvet crumbs. Red velvet being my favourite of all cakes. Okay, so that's everything we've got in this one. So this is our heart donuts that we're going to be doing. So let's see what it suggests we do for this one. Okay, so interesting. Okay, let's start with a plain full one. Let me grab my trusty plastic, pop that to the side. Okay, so let me just see if there are any. Nope, no moulding issues on this one, but I'm going to do this side as the coloured side, I think. So the first thing that we do is just take our normal sunny day glaze, which is white, and we just pop some of that on there. And then I'm going to use my spatula to spread that. I'll use my one I've already got and just spread that over the top. I think I'm going to need some more, it looks quite thin. I think I might do it in 2 layers actually, just to make it easier. So let me just spread this where I want it to go, and then we'll pop it into the lamp for 2 minutes, come back and do a second coat, and then we'll move on. Okay. Yeah, it's quite see-through, this glaze. So I think 2 coats is definitely the way to go. Alright, let me just pop that under the lamp and be right back. Okay, so it did occur to me while that was curing that I could have done all 3 with a thin layer at the same time, and then this would be much more streamlined. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a second layer on this one. No, I'm not. I'm going to put a thin layer on both of these, pop them under the lamp, and then I'm going to come back with 1 layer on all 3. And then I'll do the next stage. Okay, one moment. Okay, so all 3 of these now have a thin initial coating. Now I'm going to take the spatula. I've left that upside down to try and make it come out a lot more, and that has worked really well. So I'm just going to grab a glob of that with the spatula, pop that on top, and then just train that down along the same lines as the first coat went on, just to thicken that up a little bit. Thank you. Again, I know I've said this many times, but you don't have to be overly particular when it comes to the donuts, because obviously in real life, donut drizzle isn't always uniform and perfect and exact. So you don't have to be uniform and perfect and exact with your drizzle. As long as it's on there and you're happy with how it looks, that's all that matters. So I'm just continuing with that, obviously making sure to not go into the centre. That's always very important with these ring ones. Okay, so grab some more of that. Just make sure. Want to make sure we've got a nice even coat all the way across, but we don't want it too thick or too thin. So it's just making sure that you're happy with the thickness of the glaze. Bearing in mind we're going to be adding more in a different colour in a minute. I did take a look at the instructions while I was waiting for these to cure. and I've seen what that dye is. It's a pretty cool idea. So as soon as I've got this on to the thickness I want it to go, I will show you the next step. We don't cure in between layers on this one. Obviously I cured the bottom thin layer, but this bit and then the next two stages are done without curing in between, and then we'll cure the final thing. Just making sure I've got a lot on there but not too much. Because we don't want it to be overly thick when we come to add the next stage. Okay. I think I'm happy with those for now. Okay. So I'm just going to scrape off the excess into the bottle, because that will come in handy for a lot of things in the future. Pop that down, pop the lid back on that. Obviously I didn't use the nozzle. So there we are. Right, now I have popped a nozzle on this. Now this is a very, very pink, and what I'm going to do, if it'll come out, I've used the nozzle because obviously this is quite a small surface area and I don't want it to, I don't want too much, so I'm just using the nozzle. There we go. I'm just popping a couple of little spots here and there into the surface of the donut. And this is why you don't cure it, because as you can see, because the previous because the previous resin was still wet, you've ended up with it sort of, it pulls into it, which is exactly what you want for what we're about to do. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that there, grab my spatula, and then what we're going to do, see if I can just zoom in a bit. That's probably the best I'm going to get. So I'm just going to pop the tip of the spatula into one of these pink bits and then just swirl it all through. So we're ending up with a nice swirl effect through that white icing with the pink. And it's going to end up looking quite pretty, I think, even though I'm not a pink fan. I think it's going to end up looking quite nice. So, and then this one I think I'm going to try and do. Sorry if I've gone quiet, I'm trying to concentrate. And then this one I'm going to do a full heart attempt. We'll see if that'll work. Okay. I don't know if it's gone well or not. Let me just take a look. I don't know. I might add a bit more to them actually. I mean, you're not really going to see the swirl underneath anyway, because we're going to be covering this in red velvet crumbs. But this is not the best little bottle that I've come across, I'll be honest. Quite like that one, pastely. Another blob there, another blob there. I think we're done. So just going to swirl that in again. Okay. And then this one just round and round. Like that. That will do, I think. Okay, pop that on there. And then, again, the last step before we cure. Just get our red velvet crumbs. Snip the top off of the bag. The red velvet crumbs themselves are like almost sand. And then we're just gonna overly do it, apparently. That's fine. That's fine. Just gonna overdo this one. And then the other ones are gonna get a thinner coating. And this one's going to get a really thin coating because I quite like the idea of keeping this one mostly swirly with a very tiny amount of sprinkles on it. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So let's cure these and then we will see how they've ended up. Okay, so here they all are finished. Let me just get all of the excess crumb off of them. Okay. There you are. So that's one of them. Very, very cute. Looks very tasty, I think. There's the next one. That was the one that had hardly any sprinkles on it. And then just getting the excess crumbs off again. This is the middle one. So it's got quite a few crumbs, but not overly. That one is still a little bit tacky. So I'm hoping if I just do this, because I wasn't really happy with the coverage of the crumbs on that one. Yes, much better, much better. So it's still a tiny bit tacky, so I'm hoping, no, they won't stick, but that's fine. So that is my donuts. This is what they made, and this is what we've ended up with. What do you think? Do you prefer the very lightly coated, middle, or very thick coat? I prefer the thick coat myself. I think they're the best. But as I say, these three, they've done them quite uniform, a middle amount. But yeah, I quite like them. So that is that done. Thank you yet again for joining me today. Thank you for your continued support. It really does mean an absolute load to me that you guys are still here and that you continue to watch my videos. We've got some amazing things coming up. Obviously tomorrow is the last day of November 2025, so very exciting. So I've got one more thing lined up for you for tomorrow, and then we're on to the December advent calendar builds. So enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.